Hello folks, it is September 11th, 2017. It's a Monday and it's time for your weekly video. GlassOrchidAftermath here on the YouTubes.com. We like records. I wanted to do a couple of things in today's video. Perhaps I'm standing up again like I was in last video. I wanted to talk about the first thing off the top of my head here. We'll do a comment on last week's video and we'll talk about it on this week's video. So, Iron Me Joey, I believe Mike, I believe that's what your handle is. It's been a while since we've sent messages back and forth to each other, but made a comment as far as with restrictions with sort of buying records and finding records at thrift stores. I don't think I need to really explain much to everybody. Of course, sometimes the pickings are a little slim, so the restrictions are needed. So I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit into the video. I did want to show first off, the coming at you in 1080p, by the way, the Dark Star Born Cross-Eyed. This is the Grateful Dead singles collection. This will be the third installment for this year. There's going to be one more, total of 4 this year, just sort of like the Dave's picks. So if you haven't had a chance to pick that up next time around, I'm not really too sure what they're going to be releasing for the singles, because as we sort of get into the, we're real close to that American Beauty, Working Man's Dead, which is some great tunes coming out of that. So definitely I'd say pick up on it next time around. The pre-order should be coming out for that pretty soon. So I got some records to show you. I took a trip at the end of, middle of August to Detroit, Michigan. I stopped at the Grandee Ballroom, of course, the hallowed halls that it is. Of course, where MC5 Kick Out the Jams was recorded, one of the greatest albums of all time. Of course, it's falling apart. Really, there hasn't been anything in it since about 1972. Also did the... went to the Motown Museum while we were there. But we did do some digging, so definitely brought back a big old box of records. Some of this stuff that I'm going to show I'll show sort of some of the good finds and then sort of some of the thrift finds, and we'll talk sort of about the restrictions. So the first thing I wanted to show was this is... Move in a little bit closer here. This is the Reverend C L Franklin, Counting the Cost, sermon number 29, as you can see, on Checker Records. So on Checker Records and Chess and Checkers, basically there was a lot of these sermons that were recorded. So obviously Chess and Checker Records are always sort of thoughts for, hey, they're Chuck Berry stuff and Howlin' Wolf and all of the blues guys, but it just so happens that Reverend C L Franklin, who is Aretha Franklin's father, recorded quite a few albums on the Checker and Chess label. So I'm not sure what this one is on. This is on, and it's obviously it's like brand new. It's on Chess. This is from like 1972. So this is very cool. Obviously just more of a curiosity than anything, but I thought that was pretty neat. So that was probably $1, I would imagine. So certainly when you're looking thrift shopping, you want to look for things that are. I always look for things that are unique, that are, not necessarily something that is everybody is going to pick up. You know what I mean? It's something that everybody maybe have passed over 50 times or whatever, but there is some sort of redeeming quality to it. I just thought that was a pretty cool score. Probably will only listen to it maybe 1 or 2 times. But this is another example of sort of that kind of curiosity stuff. So this one it's just something that I've never seen before. So, curiosity struck me. So you can see this is the, let's go here. The Jack Daniels original silver cornet band in concert, and privately produced for the Tennessee Squire Association. And then there's also like Tennessee. There's like a Tennessee whatever this is. There's sort of like an actual note. It's not like a fake thing. Like a guy actually signed this. Charles M. Manley, the secretary of the Tennessee Squire, whatever that may be. But it's kind of music about from the 1890s. That so this is sort of like an interesting curiosity. And there's tunes on here. Like Amazing Grace is on here. Listen to the Mockingbird. Dixie is on there, of course. But I just thought this was something that was really cool. Again, sort of a curiosity. So, one of the, maybe the restrictions that I would kind of say for that is if it's something that I've really never seen before, this has basically a little bit of a, you have the Jack Daniels, tie to it. So it's something you probably only could have gotten maybe by mail order or something like that. So you have to think about those little things. Is this a record that's sort of been mass produced? The answer to that is no. So, worth picking up. Let me see here. Okay, so two more that I have. Well, I got about 3 more here. So as far as we're talking about restrictions, so this is one here. So classical music is a really good example of there's a lot of classical music. And if you don't set up restrictions, and you'll end up buying a lot. And it also kind of gives you the ability to find something that, hey, here's something that is, you get excited when you find it. So this one basically has a couple of restrictions. So of course, Beethovens Ninth. I always think this is like, if you want to test your speakers out or whatever, this is sort of the this is a great album to do that too. In this case, it was $1. Usually, I don't buy any classical music unless it's on 3 labels, either Deutsche Grammophon, Musical Heritage Society, and of course None Such. So this is sort of an exception to that rule. But it was the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It was $1, and it also has the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. So kind of 3 pluses, I guess you could say, that sort of make this an exception. It's really cool because it's actually on 2 discs, so it's 2 LPs, but really it's only kind of 3 sides. And so kind of the fidelity is going to be a little bit because it's actually across 2 discs rather than crammed onto 1. So so I think that's kind of cool. And then they basically just threw the Symphony Number 8 on the second side. So again, restrictions are sort of set up for me personally when I'm digging, that this prevents me from just buying every single record that I find, because records are a lot like magazines. So a magazine you just pick up and you can find something that interests you, and that's no matter what it is, if there's something that's going to interest me. So this is kind of a step up. So this one I think was like a must-have. Like I saw this and I just thought this was like totally cool. So of course the best of Louis Armstrong. St. James Infirmary is on there, which is amazing. Old Kentucky Home. This is actually sort of a reissue of another album that's on the same label, this Audio Fidelity label. I can't remember what it is. It's I don't remember. But that record goes for a lot of money, but this is sort of just the same thing, but it's just titled The Best of Louis Armstrong. So what a wonderful world. Not on there, but, some great tunes anyhow. This one, found this for $1. This was at Half Price Books. This is one that, like, I've seen a lot, and I finally was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy this one finally. So, I've been going through all of my 45s and my 7-inch records and kind of weeding out some stuff, but I have the Joan Baez, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, it's actually really good. Like, I like it. It's a good cover. And I knew it was on this album, so I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this. It's $1. So, of course, it's, a double album. It's really clean shape, and it actually even, too, came with the 7-inch. So, whoop-de-doo, right? So, but there's some good stuff on this. This is actually pretty... there's some redeeming stuff on here. The brand new Tennessee Waltz is on here. A cover of the Rolling Stones' "Salt of the Earth." I had no idea that was on here. The Course of the Night, They Drove All Dixie Down. Heaven Help Us All, Help Me Make It Through the Night, Let It Be. So there's some cool stuff. Like, it's a good album. I actually listened to it, and I'll probably listen to it, more than once. So, Joan Baez's effort. I believe this came out in 1970, I want to say. So, yeah. Cool stuff. All right, here's another album that... okay, so let's talk about the restrictions on this one. So, this is More Songs Father Taught Me, which would allude that there's actually an album called Songs My Father Taught Me. But by Father Joseph Dustin. Never trust a man with two first names. And this is on Riverside, so, which is normally like a blues label. I just thought it had enough sort of a curiosity kind of thing. Obviously, it's a guy playing banjo. Recorded somewhere around like 1961 or so. But there's like Sweet Georgia Brown. This just stuff is just, especially if it's recorded on Riverside, it's going to sound really good. The production on it is usually pretty good. So, for $1, of course, I'll check this out, and this will probably be the one that the YouTube will use I'm sure the picture of, so nobody watches the video. All right, so I know we're getting kind of long-winded here. It's 11 minutes in. So I did some, on the way there, we did stop at an antique mall, and I sort of talked with Bo, Earhead 6. I was kind of talking about how do you decide where you draw the line, where you say, okay, am I going to buy $16 records, or am I going to buy one $16 record? So I kind of had a weird thing, because it was like going around this antique mall, and every bin I was just looking at like their cheapy records, like their dollar records, and anything that was like price, I was just passing on it. I really wasn't finding stuff that kind of struck my fancy. But then I found this one booth that had sort of reasonably priced records that were just maybe like a little bit higher than what I would normally pay. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to get some of this stuff because it's good. Even though if I, and then you got to, you take into account the law of averages. So even though you may have a record that's a little bit more, you're going to have some that you get a little bit of a better deal on. So let me show you some of those. So first, this was $5 for this one. This is the Lovin Brothers. This is My Baby's Gone. I'm not really too sure where this sort of fits into the kind of the lineup. I want to say maybe this is maybe their fourth or fifth one. But of course, the Lovin Brothers, I've gotten a little bit more fame since the the Satan is Real album sort of got reissued on Light in the Attic Records. But this is definitely a pretty cool one. That was $5 for that one. This one was $8, and I wasn't going to buy this at first, but then I looked in, and was going online for a little bit more cash. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead and check this out. So this was from 1979. This is the Flying Burrito Brothers live from Tokyo. So, obviously well after, I don't even know, Sneaky Pete's really the only one that's, Sneaky Pete and Skip Batin, but I think that was, or Batin, I forget how to pronounce his name. But he was even, towards the end of the, the burritos kind of thing. I think he was with the Birds for a little bit. But, so yeah, Sneaky Pete's kind of really the only true burrito that's in this. But this was going for some cash online. I think about $20 or something like that. So for $8, I said, hey, what the hey, Next one, this is an album I've sort of been obsessing over recently. This was $6, but this is On the Road to Freedom, Alvin Lee and Mylon Lefevre. So, of course, I kind of went through a Mylon phase where I was listening to a lot of his stuff, but this album is it's kind of an interesting way to kind of put this. So, Alvin Lee, of course, was in 10 Years After, and he basically left the band. They were just sort of doing this sludgy boogie rock kind of thing, and they were like, well, let's, they wanted something to sort of go on beyond that. And basically 10 years after, I think Mylon's band, who was part of the Atlanta Rhythm section at the time, sort of were opening for 10 Years After. and they recorded this album. So you have a lot of people from like Traffic, so like Steve Winwood's on this, sort of the band that was that they had for Shootout at the Cantina. It's sort of the same lineup on that. But also George Harrison's on here. He's I don't know if they actually put him on here or not. I don't think that they did. But he plays Harry Georgeson, basically. They put him on there. Ron Wood's on this as well, too. I guess there was, like, I think even, like, Mick Jagger was on this at some point. So there's a lot of stuff from this album that I think was left in the vaults just because of contractual things. But it's a great album. They do rip off... I think Carry the Load, I think is what it is, but they rip off, I can't even think of what the song is, The Weight by the band. It almost sounds the same, but On the Road to Freedom is really good. Check this one out, like on YouTube or whatever. I think like the full album's on there. Or if you see this, definitely pick it up. It's actually very good. I'm quite, quite kind of thrilled by it. If you're a 10 Years After fan, obviously you're going to enjoy it. It's kind of toned down a little bit. It's not like the sludgy boogie rock kind of thing. So that's cool. And last but not least, of course, saving the best for last. This was $12. This is one I've been looking for a very long time. This is Ike and Tina Turner, River Deep, Mountain High. Of course, their album that was produced by Phil Spector. So just a phenomenal album. Of course, the River Deep, Mountain High. I Idolize You is on here. It's Gonna Work Out Fine's good. Oh Baby's really good too. A Fool in Love. So there's some really great tunes on this. Pretty rare record though, so you don't really see this. And this was just absolutely mint. So I think I'm gonna put this one on next. But that's all I have for you for this week. So hope everybody has a great week, and we will see you next Monday. So see you on down.